Crop irrigation was both a cultural and a political issue in California in the first 50 years of statehood. It was cultural in that almost all the Americans who had immigrated to California during the gold rush came from east of the Rockies, where it rained in the summer and applied irrigation wasn't required to produce a crop. California's early cash crops of wheat and barley were dry farmed, generally receiving enough rainfall during the winter that additional water was not necessary. But wheat was a low value per acre crop that required farming on a large scale. In Yolo County, many wheat farms extended for square miles, which led to dispersed settlement. In contrast, a 40-acre vineyard or orchard could support a family, leading to denser settlement. Perhaps 16 fruit farms per square mile as opposed to one big wheat farm. Denser settlements was possible only if water was available to irrigate the vineyards and the orchards. Water for irrigation comes from two sources: surface water from streams and rivers, and groundwater that is pumped from underlying water-bearing strata. In Yolo County, the two sources of surface water were Cache Creek to the north of Woodland and Puda Creek south of Davis. If a farm was not adjacent to a river or stream, the farmer either had to irrigate using groundwater, which required a well and a pump, or the farmer had to stick with grain crops that relied on winter rain. Prior to the advent of efficient electrical pumps and an electrical power distribution system, Yolo County farmers either used water from a system of canals that drew water from Cache Creek, or they dry farmed crops. Blower was an advocate of irrigation because he believed it would lead to denser settlements and communities, and because it led to larger yields and higher profits per acre. He normally flooded his vineyards and orchards during the winter to add water to the soil profile, and then would provide a deeper irrigation to his vineyards in the midsummer. Prior to constructing a well in 1880, Blowers used water from the Moore Canal, which was established in the 1850s, and diverted water from Cache Creek west of Woodland and brought water to the area near Woodland through a system of canals, or as they were called then, ditches. Today we think of a well as a shaft drilled down into the water-bearing strata, with water being pumped to the surface with an electric pump. In Yolo County, near Woodland, most wells are probably 160 to 200 feet in depth. But in 1880, electric pumps weren't available, and water-bearing strata could often be found within 20 feet of the surface. And so, in 1880, Blowers had a huge well built on his property. It was 18 feet in diameter and 25 feet deep, which was deep enough to intersect the first water-bearing strata. We might think of this as a reservoir that held almost 50,000 gallons. The recharge from the aquifer was sufficient that Blowers could pump 100,000 gallons an hour onto his adjacent vineyards. The pump was driven by steam, generated from burning agricultural waste, such as grape and tree prunings, or a few years later, prune pits. Blowers Well became famous throughout the state, but unfortunately there are no surviving photographs. Blowers Well is indicative of his mindset and leadership. Don't be constrained by what others have done, but instead think big and try new things. In raisins and in water, Blowers was a pioneer in California agriculture.